Hi, welcome back to the channel. I'm Dean.
I'm Kyra.
And this is Vistas and
Vittles. Today we are going to talk about the VFS process. We've had a couple of people ask us questions about, could you tell us what the VFS process was like? Now, keep in mind, we went through the VFS process, about 8 months ago?
No, actually about a year ago.
About a year ago. So we are going to talk about, it is about a year ago, almost a year ago, which is crazy. It feels like a few months, but it was almost a year. And we are going to give you an outline of what was on the list when we went through it. And keep in mind that it changes all the time. The requirements change all the time. So don't sit there and write down everything that we needed on this list. Go to Americans and Friends PT, which is a Facebook group, and you can join free. And they have a whole list that you can print. That helps most people quite a bit because you're trying to put all these different documents together. One of the things I want to say about the process was that I ended up going online and getting my own appointment. And for those people that have done that, congratulations. That is probably one of the most frustrating parts of the whole process. And if you've taken the time to go in and keep looking for appointments, you know what I'm talking about.
So our appointment was in San Francisco in April of 2024. So we're going to be talking about the documents that were required of us at that time, but we're also going to talk about some surprises that we had along the way, documents that either were requested that we weren't told about beforehand, or documents that were not needed at all. So again, Kyra went online many times. We had actually initiated with a service to start our process of getting this appointment together. And unfortunately, that service was just inundated at the time. So,
because there was a situation with the NHR, they call it a tax scheme, but the NHR was getting ready to supposedly not be available anymore. It's changed over. That's a whole nother show.
But a
lot of people were rushing to get all their paperwork in to show that they could meet the requirements.
Right. So we got they just weren't able to handle our appointment in a timely manner. So Kyra, to her credit, just went online time after time after time until she found appointments at VFS. Actually, we had intended to go in May, but she found April appointments, so we upped our schedule by
just
1
a couple
month.
weeks. Yeah.
So now we did end up with a different service that really did help us get our documents together, let us know the up to the moment requirements, and they did a lot of hand holding for us because it can be a stressful process. You want to get everything right, and sometimes you even just need a good pep talk. So there are many services out there. I'm not going to go through all of them, but know that if you don't want to go through it alone, there are people out there that are more than willing to help you.
And we used Boots on the Ground with Heather Binder. You can find her online, Boots on the Ground PT, if you want a service to help you with these things. And I don't think we needed a service for everything, but it was helpful for us to have a service for some things. And for everybody who's doing this, you know your own, who you are as a person. And if you want a little help or if you feel like you just want to do the whole thing yourself. So there's no right or wrong, just as long as you have all the paperwork together. So first of all, I want to talk about what it is like to go to VFS. Now, a lot of people get really nervous about this process. And I want to tell you, don't be nervous. VFS is sort of like going to the DMV for people who are getting visas for different countries to go and live in different places for a little while. So you don't need to wear a suit. It is, you can be nicely dressed, but basically the people who are there to, go over the list and say, do you have this? Do you have that? Do you have that? And you hand over this paperwork to them. And then once they have the paperwork,
they then send it into the consulate. They're not a decision-making entity. They're just there to gather your paperwork. They are, I believe, they're contracted out by the government. They are a separate company. And they don't only work with Portugal. They work on a lot of different countries. And you'll have a lot of different people going to a lot of different places when you're there. I would recommend... Okay, Kyra mentioned that it's kind of like going to the DMV. It's true. They often require payment in the form of a money order. Sometimes they'll take a credit card, but payment methods change all the time, what's accepted there, as do the costs. So the cost of our appointment was somewhere in the neighborhood of $94 each. Now, last time I looked, it was about $114. Check online the day before you go and make sure that you have, I would recommend doing a money order in that amount because they always accept money orders. And it has to be exact. If you're even a penny off, they most of the time will not accept it.
I think if you're over like $1 or $2 over, just know you're not going to get the change back. Okay? That's mostly what I want to say about that. And, okay, so we're going to go through the different documents that we had. We had a VFS cover sheet, which was a list of all the documents that we needed. And we were really nervous about this, by the way. I want to say, like, Dean in particularly was really, really nervous. Like, we spent the night before, I think he wanted to go through the documents like 4 times. I was ready to kill him, okay?
So I'm going to show the VFS cover sheet. Here's a copy of the VFS cover sheet.
Yeah, it's just gives you a list of, what everything looks like. That was our list that came from Heather. Your list is going to be different because everything changes all the time, okay? So don't use that list, and you'll hear me say this maybe a couple of times while we're doing this video. Go on to American and Friends PT Facebook group. You can print the current list when you're ready to go, okay? And usually it's also good because somebody will say, oh, I went yesterday and the price is da-da-da-da-da-da. And it's usually the same for a whole month, but that can also change. So, just make sure you're watching everything that's going on, okay? So the VFS cover sheet.
And then we had the application for the visa, which is available online.
And I believe we didn't fill those out till we got there. We had some time, and I believe they handed those to us. And we filled those out while we were waiting. And the room that they take you into, you'll go through like a metal detector. Try to take as little with you as possible because they'll be checking your bag and everything like that. But you go through a metal detector and you sit in on like these chairs and you're just waiting for your name to be called. For some people it can be really quick, and for other people it can be a really slow process. It depends on what's going on at VFS the day you're there. For instance, if there's a family of 8 in front of you and they have to take 8 sets of paperwork, you're not gonna probably be like, let's say the appointments are usually about a half hour apart, hour apart, half hour apart. So if there's a family of 8 in front of you, you're not gonna be called on time. Just be aware of that. We had to have 2 passport photos in an unsealed envelope, and this was for the actual visa that they were going to put in our passport.
Speaking of the passport, there's a lot of debate over whether or not to leave your passport with the VFS office. If you do that, you'll be asked to pay for them to, for us it was for them to UPS it to you, or FedEx. They use different services. We did not do that. We waited to be notified that our visas were ready, and then we sent in our passports with a return addressed and paid for envelope, because we wanted to have access to our passports, because we actually, while we were waiting for the visas, came to Portugal to set up our apartment.
Yeah, and I actually recommend that because, you know, if something happens where we also were right around the time that the Ukrainian refugees were coming out of Ukraine, and we had the NHR, like all at the same time that was going on while we were trying to get our paperwork together. So there are different things that can happen that can slow the process for you. So be aware of that. And I 100% recommend keeping your passport until they send you an email. We got an email saying, hey, everything's ready. You know, go ahead and send it in.
Yeah, and it took a while for it to be ready. So like I said, we had our AMA appointment, our VFS appointment in April of 2024. Didn't hear anything, decided that we would come out in June to Portugal to set up our apartment. Got here in June, and of course a week later we heard that our visas were ready. So we waited a couple weeks and then went back to the United States to collect them. So you give them the passport photos, and then there's AMA's criminal background record check, and that is something that the Portuguese require. It's something that we didn't go online and get ourselves. It's something that Boots on the Ground provided to us.
And then you have the FBI criminal background check. So this is, you can go to your local post office, which is what we did. We actually went to the post office in Marin and did ours because we were living in California at the time, and they knew exactly what we needed, and we were in and out in about a half hour. It was great.
They took electronic fingerprints. It cost us about $100 each. Not every post office will have this service, so you should go online and find out the nearest post office to you that does the background check. Now, we were at a moment in time where they were changing their requirements at VFS. We got our background check, and at that time, all they required was a sealed copy of your criminal background check. Now, you also get a copy via email, so you know what it says, but we had a sealed copy, and then literally 3 days before our appointment, we were notified by Boots on the Ground that they were requesting an apostilled copy of your criminal background check. Now, apostling is basically your state's version of being a notary, basically. Basically, it's the state in which they issue this background report, verifying that it's for real. So this wasn't required on the list that we were provided. We were told at the last minute. I ended up having to take a day off of work. We had to drive to Sacramento, and that was an adventure. But we ended up getting an apostilled copy of our background report. We basically used the copy that we got in the email, and we brought the sealed copy just in case. So what they did is they looked at the apostilled copy, and then they took the sealed copy, opened it up, and included it in our package. They just wanted to know it was for real. So that was an adventure, but we got through it. But that's an example of the requirements changing literally at the last minute.
You'll also need a personal statement. And what we did was we talked about why we wanted to move to Portugal, what we were interested in doing, what we liked, We also talked about, we already had some friends here. And so we talked about, those friends being able to help us with our transition. I don't think we've really had a lot of bouts of homesickness since we've been here. We miss individual people, but I don't think that we're, sad in general that we left. It's just, we've been looking forward to this for such a long time. I think we were just excited to leave, and we're still excited to be here.
The next thing that we needed was our lease, and this is really important. If you're not getting a lease, if you're purchasing a place, you need proof that you own a place here. If you're leasing a place, you need a copy of that lease and proof that it is registered with the tax authority. Basically, there are people who will rent you a place and not register it, and that's illegal. They want to know that they're getting their money from the lease. So you will have to have proof that it's registered, and then you'll also have to have proof that you paid your deposit and you've paid however much rent you've paid. Now, we spoke previously about finding our place while we were on a scouting trip. Some people rent a place sight unseen. It's your preference. We would recommend doing a scouting trip, but just remember that the place that you rent might not be your forever home. It's just the place that you land that you need for your appointment.
The next thing that we needed was our marriage certificate. Now, we had originally been married in New York City, and our marriage certificate was 25 years old. So when we got ready to look at the marriage certificate, they told us that marriage certificate was too old. So I had to go to the registrar in New York. Basically, I sent a letter saying, hey, I need a new copy of my marriage certificate. And while I was doing this, I actually did it double so we could have an extra copy that we kept for ourselves that was newer in case we needed it. So the process was threefold. First, I had to send and request the marriage certificate. Then the marriage certificate got sent back to me. Then you can hire a service to do this for you. I think it was like $500 or $600. And I was like, I think I can do this myself. So then I had to send the marriage certificates with I think it was $6 each or something crazy like that on each one, asking for an apostle.
In the state of New York.
In the state of New York. Then they sent it back to me saying, okay, this person needs an apostle. And then I sent it back asking for the apostle, and then it came back again because it had to have an official document attached to it from the Secretary of State saying it needed to be done. So anyway, that probably took about 6 weeks. I had the time to do it, but if you don't have the time to do it, definitely hire a service to do it for you. It's faster. It's not cheaper though. It probably cost me, I don't know, $25 to do the whole thing myself.
Next, we needed proof of travel insurance. I don't know why they asked for that.
It's basically the travel insurance is a bridge insurance so that you are covered. Like, let's say for some reason you are leaving your insurance in the US and you are coming to whatever country. They want to know that you're covered if something happens to you before you get a chance to set up before your insurance starts once you land in the country. It's like a bridge insurance, but there are other insurances that you can get now that didn't exist then. There's like nomad travel insurance and things like that people can get that we were not able to get at the time. But you have to see what is Portugal requiring, because they require certain kinds of insurance for that bridge between when you're leaving wherever home is and you're coming to stay permanently in Portugal.
The next, you need your NIF number. And this is basically your tax ID number for Portugal. you use it when you go shopping, whenever you purchase goods or services. And at the end of the year, in preparation for taxes, you go online and literally every transaction that you use that number with shows up, and a certain amount of that you can write off of your taxes. And people refer to it almost like a social security number, but all anybody can do with it
is pay your taxes.
Yeah, so
So
and then you need a bank account in Portugal, which we got on our scouting trip, and we had a friend who got his on his scouting trip recently. And the bank statement needs to be stamped and initialed by your banker. And at the time that we applied, it was required that you had, for the first person, at least 1 year's worth of money as if you were paid minimum wage for that year. And then for the second person, you need half again that much. So at that time, it was a shade over 15,000 total euros for both of us. That could change from time to time. Not necessarily a bad idea to put more money in the account to show that you're serious, but that was the requirement at the time.
Okay. The other thing that sort of goes along with that is you need to show them that you can take care of yourself once you get here, that you're not going to be applying for a welfare sort of thing. So you have to get all of your documents together that show, when you're expected to receive your different, like if you've got an annuity, if you've got, just your regular bank account, any retirement accounts that you have. They want to see every single statement and your social security statement and when you're scheduled to receive that. All of that, all your financials kind of go in one packet, because I remember we had all of our documents and then we had a page on top of that that showed what was in each account and how much they all totaled, just so to make it easy for whoever was reading it.
Right, and with these bank accounts, it's important to show basically the path of the money. You show, if you're doing a retirement account, show the distribution and then show where it gets deposited to in your bank account.
Unless you haven't received, like a lot of times people will come before they're fully retired, then you just need to tell them, hey, on blah, blah, blah date, I will be receiving ... It goes into this account and comes to me. Right. And you can, write a statement showing that.
Right, and we actually highlighted the transactions to show, here's where the money came, here's where the money goes. Also, what Kyra recommended was an additional assets statement. Basically, it shows the value of each of your accounts. If you have any other money that's expected, say you're selling a house, but it's not sold yet, but it's closing, you can get the closing statement to show that this much money is coming in. And also, if you're renting out a house, if you are keeping your home in the United States or Canada and renting it out, that's considered income as well.
Or if you have rental properties that you collect an income from, or anything of that nature, where you've got 3 rental houses and you get money from those and that's what you're living on, you just have to show that. They just need to know that you can take care of yourself.
Next, this wasn't required, but it's a good idea to get it. A reference letter from a citizen, and along with a copy of their citizen card. And we had a friend here who's with boots on the ground, but who actually also just really became a good friend. And she wrote a really nice statement for us and included her card. And they didn't request it when we were at VFS, but we gave it to them anyway.
And if you end up having a friend who's already living here or something of that nature, that can be, a good thing to request of them. If we wouldn't have gotten it from our friend, then there was another friend that I could have asked to write that statement who was already living here. So that's why it's sometimes a good idea to go on that scouting trip, because you end up meeting people, and one of the people you meet may be able to write that statement for you, which was what happened with us. You know.
And then you need to tell them what state in the United States or what province in Canada you reside in, and show proof of that. For us, it was a address proof, was an energy bill. And then
we had the flight itinerary, which I don't even think this is required anymore, but at the time we had to tell them, hey, we'll be coming on blah, blah, blah date. And we had to show an itinerary that said we were coming, but I don't think that's required anymore. So don't even worry about that.
And something that was not required on the list that we got, but I saw on American and Friends PT that somebody was asked for a summary of their the most recent tax return.
So we brought that with us. We weren't expected to need it, but we were asked for it and we were prepared and we had that. So if you see, this is the other thing, is that something can happen once where you'll see that somebody was asked for blah diddy blah document that hasn't ever been asked for before, but all of a sudden people are starting to ask for this one particular document. Whatever that document is, have that with you, because you just never know when that's going to be a thing. Because it was like 1 or 2 people had been asked for their tax returns. It was kind of a new thing that was starting. And so we just happened to have ours with us.
And that's all because I read it on that Facebook group. So I think that saved us a lot of angst.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, so that's it. We just wanted to say thank you if you've watched all the way to the end. Thank you so much for staying with us. We're having such a good time bringing you all of this information. We are still working on getting up to our 500 people so that we can do a live and answer, any questions that you might have, or just chat about different things that you might want to know about Portugal or Europe in general.
So thanks for taking the time with us.
All right. See you on the road.